And we're back with another episode of What's Hockey. It is a special edition episode of What's Hockey as it will be solely focused on the Four Nations tournament. Keaton, most of the games have been played and we'll get into each individual one, but there have been some injuries throughout the tournament. What news do you
Drastic
have on
ones.
that?
It's crazy. About 10 to 11 hours ago, it looks like Charlie McAvoy got admitted to General Mass Hospital.
Mm.
Pretty rough stuff. Does not look like he'll be there for the Thursday matchup against Canada. And he played his ass off in that first game. So it's going to be a
Oh,
tough
yeah.
loss for the US to try to, I guess, replicate that physicality. Because I mean, I think it was just the first period he had 4 hits and two on McDavid, two on Crosby, and just throwing bows and shit. I
Oh,
don't know.
man.
He's just he does work.
Oh yeah, he was laying down the law in that game, man. That's going to be a big loss. Like he's a great player too. So I mean, they're going to miss the talent side of it. But as far as like setting the tone in the game, he was very outside of the fights. Starting everything off. He was probably the most physical part of that game, and so that is a tough loss for the U.S. So likely Sandheim is going to go ahead and step in that role. Well, not the same role, but he'll step in for the U.S. What other injuries do we have going on, Keaton?
So it looks like both Kachuk brothers as well. Matthew actually didn't get to play against Sweden, and Brady ended up getting a little bit banged up against or in that game. So who knows if the Kachuk brothers will be able to play? But I mean, I would assume that they should be able to because it didn't seem like
Yeah,
Matthew didn't really get hit that hard in that first game, and he missed uh, the next one. So I mean, I feel like that was just more or less management, just like with Austin Matthews. And Brady Kachuk did get to start and play, and he kind of got banged up, but he left the locker room, came out into the bench, and just kind of sat there. And I kind of felt like the coaches didn't want him to play the rest of the game, so he just didn't. So
yeah, good old
it was crazy though.
Sullivan.
His
He was
Go
asked
ahead.
after the game about the Brady Kachuk injury, and he basically was saying it was more precautionary, and he'll be there for the championship. So I expect both Kachuk brothers to be there.
Yeah, yeah. But
Canada
yeah, pretty
Canada
good.
had an injury. They had to bring in my boy Thomas Harley at some point during this tournament
He's
because
trash.
Shea Theodore got hurt and then Kale McCarr got sick. So they bring in Dallas Stars defensive goal scoring threat Thomas Harley, who I
I'm
don't think
pretty
he
sure
had.
it was DeBoers that got that into there. Cause
And Jim Nill is also a member of the Canadian Hockey Federation, whatever they call it. Like Jim Nill and Pete DeBoer were probably saying, "Hey, look, Kale McCarr is not going to play. We need an offensive style defenseman to kind of do a similar role." And you saw late in that game when they needed a goal, they did have Thomas Harley playing those late game minutes to try to get it done. So yeah, there was definitely some stars influence, but also selected for a specific task. Whereas they could have brought another defenseman, but no defenseman has as many points as Thomas Harley in the league. So I mean, it was specifically for that reason too.
Yeah, yeah, pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
Does
man.
suck for Finland getting the
And real
rough
quick, I'm
end
sorry, Kale
of
McCarr
those
is
games.
back. I'm sorry, Kale
Yeah, he
McCarr will
just
be
got
back for the
in like
yeah,
illness or
just an
something. It
illness.
was like a
So
flu bug that was floating around
yeah,
the
so
locker room.
he will be in the championship game. Thomas Harley will be sitting for that one. But sorry, go ahead.
Potentially.
More than
But
likely.
yeah, I mean, it looks like Finland got the rough start that we kind of thought. Unfortunately, they did get that overtime win against Sweden, which I thought was pretty surprising because I don't know. I just felt like Sweden got off to a pretty hot start, and it was pretty even overall. But yeah, ended up taking that loss in overtime against Finland, and it's kind of crazy because I just don't think that the Finnish goaltenders were all that great. I think it was Olmark who started most of that. Is that right?
So it was UC
Or
Saros starting 2 games, and the other one was Lankinen.
Hallmark played. Is he a Swede? I don't know.
He's a Swede. He did come in
Nice.
for Philip Gustafsson after Gustafsson allowed 2 goals on 4 shots.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well,
But
and
yeah,
so like,
so
I
this
mean,
Four Nations face-off has been pretty fun to watch.
oh, dude.
I
Well,
mean,
so like,
even
just to
oh, go
stay
ahead.
on Finland Sweden for a second, and of course, gotta toot the Stars horn a little bit. That OT winner by Mikael Granlund was real nice. But I mean, in that game, while we're saying that it was kind of even, and Finland does get those 2 goals that eventually lead to the Swedish goalie to be pulled. I wish I had the numbers written down, but halfway through that game, if not going to the third period, Sweden kind of completely took over as far as shots on goal. Finland kind of stalled out a little bit. But and in that second period, Sweden did put up 2 goals. Finland
Yeah,
Barkov got one, making it a 3-3 game. Nothing happened in the third, and so they go to OT in that one. Honestly, I loved how competitive that game was. The thing is, the Finns and the Swedes, they've grown up not only in their own systems, knowing their own strategies, and so you can kind of replace someone a little easier than you could with the U.S. or Canada. But they've known their opponents better too. They've grown up playing against Sweden and
yeah.
Finland. Have grown up going against each other, and so they
Border
know
countries.
kind of what to get into. Yeah, and like they know what to expect. They're going to be they're extremely motivated to win. I know on God, I think it's the Four Nations Instagram account. There's a post prior to the game. They're asking the Finns like, "Oh, what do you like about Sweden?" And they're like, they either said nothing, meatballs, or in the case of Esa Lindell, the Dallas Star, he said his former teammate John Klingberg. But I mean, there's no love lost there, and so to see that game go down to the wire, go to OT, I mean, that was just fantastic. I thought it was a great way to. That was a Saturday game, so I don't want to say start the tournament, but just a great
Yeah,
display
and
of
I felt like
this
out of
competitiveness.
2 games, like 2 games out of this whole thing were like blowouts. Everything else just seemed like it was just, yeah, that seems right. And I'm like, I don't know, just seems right there. And Finland, Sweden definitely showed off. And with, I think it was
You can look
Canada
at the
getting
way
up
that,
against Sweden, and
yeah, this
then they made it a game.
Yeah, I was just about to go straight
So
to that.
it's
The way
just,
the tournament started between Canada and Sweden going into OT, Sweden in that third period just putting all the pressure on, man. And I think Canada maybe were a
yeah,
little complacent, but and Canada does wind up with the victory, but losing that point there to go from
and
three
especially with the
points,
OT. Yeah.
oh man, like that almost cost
And
them
Lucas
dearly. Like
Raymond
they,
played his ass off, gotten 2 assists as well. So I mean, that was just a great game because I mean, it just felt like, at least early on, you just, oh yeah, Canada's taking that win easy. There's nothing else that's going to be said by Sweden, and then they
yeah,
just come back and make it a game. And kind of the
oh
same thing with Canada versus Finland. I think it was 4-0, maybe even 5-0 by the time that Finland started scoring, and they
it
actually made it a
was
game.
yeah, it was four
I think it was four to
zero.
zero, and then they scored
Yeah,
3 straight within like five,
with
ten
like
minutes.
7 minutes left, 6 minutes left. Esselindell, Dallas Star. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Was it Lundell? No, it was Esselindell. Esselindell gets the first goal for Finland in that game. It's 4-1. 6 minutes to go, and it just seems well. It was already unlikely to go Finland's way, but at that point, I mean, there's no chance in the world. But
Yeah,
with
I mean,
like
4-3, you pull your goalie, and you have the chance to take it to overtime at least. I mean, that was a hell of a fight for Finland.
Yeah, a minute left in the game, or a minute 20 maybe. Granlund, Dallas Star, gets a goal, and then he goes ahead and scores again like 20 seconds later. And it ends, unfortunately, with a Sidney Crosby empty net goal. But I mean, Jesus Christ, talk about it. It goes back to that first game, that Canada Sweden one going into OT means that Canada had to go hard in this game against Finland, and they still, if they go to OT there, then Sweden would control their destiny and potentially be playing the U.S. in the championship right now. And so, I mean,
Exactly.
the implications with each game being so valuable in not just victory, but needing it to be a regulation win versus an OT win. I thought this tournament from beginning to end was just, it was perfection. It was beautiful to watch. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
honestly, I feel like the NHL should adopt that point system because it just seems kind of stale to have 2 points for a win, regardless of regulation or overtime.
I
And it
agree. I
doesn't give
think
you that, I guess, edge.
it doesn't make sense that like I, you I get getting a point for going to OT and losing, but if I win in regulation, 2 points is just not reward enough. So yeah, bringing in that 3 point system, I think would be very beneficial going forward for
It
the
would probably
league.
motivate a lot more players to try to end the game in regulation as opposed to trying to go to overtime. So
100%. Like
I don't know.
if it's a tie game, I could stall the last 2 minutes and just force it to be a sudden death shootout essentially, or
And
then
you
go to
know that
shootout.
you're going to win in that overtime just because of matchups or whatever else.
It's
But yeah,
three
I
on
mean, there's
three.
a
It's
strategy
open
behind it.
ice. Anything can
Exactly.
happen, you know.
And
So
if you
yeah,
push to shootout, you've got some natural shooters in your team. I mean, you might as well just take that chance.
yeah, absolutely. The game that we haven't talked about, Keaton, that of course was I would say the peak of the tournament. Even though again there have been plenty of high points, is USA Canada. That game
Oh,
taking
yeah.
place in Canada, and we mentioned, of course, McAvoy's impact on the game, but. Starting the game, 3 fights in 9 seconds. The Kachuk brothers
Pretty
going
crazy.
at it with Sam
JT Miller
Bennett
coming up
and
at the end. Yeah.
okay, Miller did not do good in his fight. That was pretty rough. He was
Wow.
against
He
dude.
started it.
He did. He did. That's what made it work. He like drops his gloves and then he stalled for a second because he was like, "Oh, I guess they're not going to fight me." And then what's his name? I know it starts with a P. Uh, Jesus Christ, I'm
Not
blanking on
sure.
his name. But he turns around, drops his gloves, and just like manhandled him like JT Miller as a child. I felt like we had great momentum out of the Brady fight.
Braden
JT
Point
didn't. No, no, no. It was like Provera or
or Accio?
Procker. Yeah, yeah. Parenko. What's it?
Pareko?
Yeah, him. That guy's massive, dude. I mean, he's the
He's
size of
six
Bigfoot.
six.
He looked like it compared to JT Miller. Good God, on skates like
Yeah.
6'8", 6'9", Jesus Christ. But yeah, but that's how the game started, man. And then we talked about McAvoy just popping dudes. I swear, in one play he hit both Crosby and McDavid. And of course, you mentioned earlier, 4 hits, two on McDavid, two on Crosby. That's going to be a
I think
tough
that was just like
loss.
the first period or like
It
part
was.
of the first period.
It
It wasn't even
absolutely
like the whole game. He probably had like 20 hits on it
in
on that
that game,
game.
man. You have so it ends up being a 3-1 game. McDavid opens up
It
the
hit five.
scoring.
He
Sorry.
had 5 hits that total game.
Okay, yeah. To open up that game, it was Connor McDavid who gets the first goal. But dude,
The
okay,
nasty
so
goal.
yeah, yeah. Unlike the first U.S. game where Brady and Matthew Tkachuk combined for 4 goals, this one it was your Detroit Red Wing Dylan Larkin
Good
getting the
old
goal
Larkin.
in there in the second
He
period,
also
and
got the
Jake
assist on
Gensel.
the empty netter.
Oh, nice! Jake Gensel, of course, takes the other 2 goals, including the empty netter. And so I, dude, every game has been so good to me. Save for even that 6-1 dubbing of USA and Finland. Because I mean, look, it's not a tight game, but you do get to see the Kachuk
Well,
brothers
you
going
started out, it
off.
was 1-1 for like the first period. So, I
Finland did
mean,
get the
it
first
started
goal.
out pretty
Yeah.
slow for the U.S., but I mean, ending 6-1, that is just, dominance over.
Yeah, I mean the Kachuk
Finland.
brothers went off, man. Again, 4 goals in that game is ridiculous, and they were getting hits
Yeah.
left and right. While watching that game, I was genuinely like I couldn't remember an NHL game this physical, and this was
Oh,
before
yeah.
USA and Canada, and then you see
It
that
was
one,
definitely
and
chippy.
there has not been a game I've seen like there have been playoff games less competitive and aggressive than that U.S. Canada game and U.S. like I just think, however, I feel like that brought also people who aren't too interested in hockey into it more. We knew the nations would be involved,
Yeah.
of course, but it, I mean, it sparked. a brand new wave of interest into the
There's definitely a
league.
bunch of American scumbags backing the U.S. for the wrong reasons,
There's some of
but
that too, but it
yeah.
also coincided with the NBA All Star break, and so then you had
Oh
people
yeah, and
saying
they just
like,
have absolutely nothing to watch. Because I
and
mean,
so
I saw some tweet or something about the NBA's All Star. It was like 40 minutes of actual basketball time, and there were
it
like
was like a
I don't know,
4 hour
3 hours of
event too.
everything
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
like
and
ads,
it
just
wasn't
talking.
competitive
It's
at all.
like,
I
what
mean,
is this?
it's like
Oh yeah,
Wimbenyama walking down the lane and then
it
dunking
was
with
like
no
two
one
one
playing
on ones and
defense.
then like a 3v3 or something. It wasn't even like actual basketball,
It
so it's
yeah
just
it
dumb.
yeah,
And then the
and there are
same thing
some
with the
people.
NFL, having the flag football tournament and then the skills competition. It just comes up way short. And I understand, yeah, you want to keep your players' health in mind, but like, I don't know, when you got the NHL throwing bows at everybody, I mean, Jesus,
I do
man. It's
think
just a
circumstances
lot
are
more entertaining
different
to
though.
watch.
Oh, 100%. I think circumstances are different, being that international play for NHL players hasn't occurred in like 8 years, I think it was. I think they were saying the last time
Yeah.
Crosby suited for Canada was 8 years ago. I think the rivalries are deeper between the nations. Like someone suggested, oh, well, let's do countries in basketball, like Jokic leads Serbia. Dog, there's like four
He's
Serbians in
probably
the
got two
league.
people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like and you think he's gonna suddenly start trying hard at NBA All Star Weekend? Like he barely cares about basketball throughout the year. But no,
Yeah.
I think it's just a completely different game. The NFL is not going to be anywhere similar. Like this is what hockey is. I'm curious to see if this were to occur every year, if it would be as chippy as it was that first Canada U.S. game. Man, I can't foresee every year we're seeing three fights to start a game. I think there was some buildup over the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Especially
so
politically.
and even
Yeah,
outside
I
of that,
mean,
I mean, like Canada has been considered the better country for hockey for a long time, and now
yeah.
the U.S. players get a chance to prove them wrong. And for the first game, they did. Hopefully, in that
Well, it
championship
seems
game,
like
they
in the
can
last
as
few
well.
years, Canada's just been losing that hockey, I don't know, stereotype, I guess. It's just, I don't know. Like Russia's been playing really well. Other countries have been playing a lot better.
Russia's always been, really good at hockey. Of course, the Miracle on Ice was a big deal because we beat the USSR. They've been, that country for a while. I think with the U.S. and Canada being, border rivals, you have this thing where a Canadian team hasn't won a Stanley Cup in God, who
Over
knows
30
how long,
years, right?
so long, man. And then you saying that while I kind of agree, I don't know, man. Canada does have like the sickest damn roster when it comes to like their stars though, so I can't say they've fallen off when you
And
got
they don't have a
lineups with like,
goaltender.
yeah,
You want to trust
Bennington.
Bennington?
He, you know what, yeah, he didn't have too
And I'm
great of a
pretty sure they're
tournament.
not starting Aiden Hill because of some stupid like social scuff between the coach and him. He just
Really?
doesn't like him. Yeah, something like that.
I'd have
That's
to
what I
look
heard.
into
I don't know
that.
for sure.
I
But I
was
mean,
surprised to see
Aiden
that
Hill is definitely better than Bennington. I
they're
mean,
kind of the
he
same,
plays for the Knights. Come on.
and they're
They're
kind of the
playing a lot
same.
better than the Flyers.
Well, who's in front of them? Like, it's not just the goalie. I mean, we talked about Gibson having
Brother.
a over .9 save percentage, but he's with the Ducks, so they lose. Like, you can't always just blame the goalie. But that being said,
Well,
I
yeah, but
did
look at his
expect
stats
Aiden.
versus Bennington's.
All right. But again, I did think that they
Trash.
would go to Aiden Hill against Finland. They decided to stick with Bennington. So I am kind of curious to see where they go for the championship game. I would assume Bennington, and of course I expect Hellebuck in net for
They
the
also didn't
U.S.
even
team.
bother getting Logan Thompson, which is crazy.
Yeah, but
I don't know. There's a lot
but
of stubs for the Canada goalie
for sure, for
situation.
sure. We're talking about Canada U.S. in the championship. Keaton, the spread came out, and this the spread today. I don't know if it'll change going forward, but
It could.
we can only work with what we have. It's U.S. I'm sorry, it's Canada plus 1.5 against the U.S. Now, when we picked last week, we both picked OT victories. Are you going to go with Canada plus 1.5, being that that would cover that OT victory?
I think it's going to be a little bit different this game, but I don't know. It's just I feel pretty confident in the U.S. team to be able to make those saves, and like I mentioned before, defense wins championships. And while
Okay.
we do
We're
miss
missing,
Charlie McAvoy,
yeah.
but we've got the goaltenders to step up, so it doesn't really
Hellebuck
seem like
is,
it's going to be the biggest issue, I guess. I mean, yeah, you're going to miss the physicality and everything else, but I mean, if you just can't get shots into the net, I mean, what are you going to do?
yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going to stick with my OT win scenario for the US. And, you win in OT, you can only win by one. So that means I will be going with Canada plus 1.5 to cover that line. I do expect them to come out and I don't want to be cliche guy. Oh, they're going to be like trying hard, but there's no way they're going to take what happened to them in Canada lying down. I mean, I think they're going to be the ones trying to send a message in Boston. It's showing that like that performance. When was it Was it Saturday? That was just unacceptable. I do expect them
Yeah.
to.
You might see Connor McDavid like Brady Kachuk hitting two people on one play.
I do think they're going to be popping the pads. That is a great phrase by my boy Justin. I do think they'll be popping the pads this game. I do think it's going to be more competitive than the first one. And the first one, of course, was uber competitive. So I do
Oh, insanely
expect, oh
competitive.
my God. So I'm expecting a thriller Thursday night. But yeah, US and OT, Canada plus 1.5 is my prediction for that one.
Nice, dude.
Keaton, we do some prize picks, and last week I went ahead and donated my money to prize picks because I just straight lost.
Pretty good.
I went with I had it pulled up and I've lost it, but it was under on Austin Matthews
Austin
shots, which he
Matthews.
did his job. He did not shoot enough, and
Classic.
then but I had over on Nylander's time on ice, and he went under, so I took the L there.
Classic.
Yes, but this week, Keaton, this week will be different. I'm going to go ahead and get a dub here. I'm going with Jake Gensel over 2 shots on goal. The man's been an attacking machine the entire tournament. I probably should have looked it up, but I don't think he's gone under 2 once. And I know I bet him for 2 of the games at least, and he covered that very easily. So over 2 shots on goal for Gensel. And I'm pairing that with Connor McDavid over 2.5 shots on goal. I expect by the time the game
It's a
starts,
pretty
that
low line
line,
for him.
dude, I expect that line to move up to 3 by the time that game starts. So that would be a tie if you don't place it today, I think. But yeah, 2.5, that's easy cover.
Yeah. And I went 0 for 2 for my prize picks outing as Nathan McKinnon had 6 out of the 3.5 shots on goal he was supposed to be under.
Mm.
And Nylander hit 2 out of 3 shots on goal. So I just should have just flipped him. Flipped the over under. Would have
Eesh.
cashed, but it's all right because this time rolling with some great picks. I've got Werenski with more than 2 shots on goal. With Charlie McAvoy out, he's definitely going to be playing a lot more, and he's probably our best defenseman we've got. And we've got Mitch Marner with more than 1.5 shots on goal. He's been a pretty solid player for Canada, but 2 shots isn't that bad as
No.
far as an ask. So hopefully he'll get it, and we'll be making that money.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Keaton, is there anything that we might be missing here?
No, I think that should be it. Just hopefully we can see U.S. win the Four Nations trophy, gold, whatever. And
I think it's a
yeah,
cup. I think you win a cup.
nice, nice,
Yes,
dude.
yeah.
Put
Yeah,
some
yeah.
water in that cup, you know.
Yeah, I
Drink
think we
it.
can find something a little better than water. But anyway, that being
It
said,
sustains you.
yeah. Anyway, yep. Hopefully the U.S. comes out on top on Thursday. But that'll do it for us today. Y'all take care. Peace.